Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 99 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, Downfall Part 1. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Except, I do want to just say one thing. There are some, interesting names for some characters as we move forward throughout Downfall. So, if I mispronounce anything, just know I'm doing my best to pronounce them correctly, because some of these names had some sort of weird audio filter over top of them, which made it impossible to hear. So I'm just putting that out there into the universe. Some of these names are very messed up and they put some weird filter on them, so just putting that out there. Anyway, let's get started with the recap. We start in Tengar, the Eternal Palace, a place with endless ramparts and endless hallways, a place so large it would take ages for light to cross it. Beings with infinite possibilities and endless wonder. A palace with unending mysteries for those who live here. Shimmering lights begin to wander. Past the hallway of the unbroken shard, the quill of infinites that writes what has never been, there is a small group of twinkling lights. They appear human, but this realm doesn't know what human is. Instead, they are Idun, a light moving through the palace going to the Orchard of Possibilities. Idun meets another smaller light. This smaller light is, and this is the first messed up name, Arur, and it's played by Nick, a spherical light that is never fully spherical as it moves. Idun was hoping to come across anyone in the hallways of Tengar. Idun asks if Arur has anyone else nearby it can call out to. Arur does and calls out to Los, played by Ashley, a pale blue light that changes its shape as it moves. Los sees Idun and Arur move down the stairway towards them. Behind Luce is their sibling, Emissary, and they appear out of nowhere and ask if there is a new game. Luce isn't quite sure, and Arur says that Udine has something new to show them. Emissary says that they will be the first to see it and races off towards Idun. Luce follows quickly behind. As they reach the orchard, there is a purplish light that looks like a reflection of water. This light is played by Laura. Emissary runs past her and trips. Emissary yells that Noel, Laura's character, tripped them. Idun says that they ran too fast and they are now all over the place and says that there is enough of that. Suddenly, Noel gets a new feeling, a feeling of dread. Noel says that it's exciting and horrible at the same time. Idun says that there is a new tree being born in the Orchard of Possibility. A tree twitches and it's very sharp and it looks painful. A fruit hangs from it and a gem. A sun falling in on itself. I don't know how to say that name, Nick, says that it's beautiful. Emissary says that they aren't sure if they agree. It feels like, and they look to Null for a word that they don't quite know. And Null says terrible. Idun grabs the fruit. Luce says to wait and give it a chance, but Idun's shimmering form begins to fade. He says that he's sorry and thinks he's going away. A point of lightlessness is now in the orchard. Another light saw this in the distance. This is played by Talzin. This light felt a desire for something new. This light is trying to become a black hole falling in on itself as it moves. Osh arrives as the other lights also arrive. Ailey, who moves as a shifting color leaving an imprint of themselves behind as they go, she thinks that it's best that they get Idun. She touches the point of lightlessness, and they can all hear a noise elsewhere in Tengar. They watch as the imprints begin to disappear, and she says, "I'll miss you," and vanishes, and off in the distance a tower crumbles. Null says that she is away, and the lights question what is happening. Meanwhile, two other lights in an endless hallway. They see the hallway begin to close in on them. Suddenly the infinite is no longer infinite. These two are played by Nosir and Abu Bakar. Sorry if I'm saying their actual names wrong now. The first of these two is Idun, a light that collapses in on itself and consistently changes its shape, and they are filled with a chaotic curiosity. Who asks the others how they got to nothing. They've been trying to do that for a while. O says that it happened on its own. The other light is Core, a shimmering tube of light that sparkles and then stops sparkling suddenly. It thinks that this lightlessness is beautiful and wonderful. The hallway then closes in on them. Ihun, the weaver of time, pulls them all to her. She's in the orchard. She asks what they are all doing. Tengor is collapsing around them. Aurora says that there is nothing. There is we. Ihan says that they won't be here if they don't run. She begins to run, and in the orchard nothing becomes eternity. Ihan spins a seed that becomes a star of light and fate. Another light behind them tries to help more behind that one, and they turn and are grabbed by nothing, and suddenly disappear. Aor and Luce are grabbed by Emissary and pulled onto this ship, this star ship that they made. Os starts pushing the others onto the ship as well. Null looks for Shasti, another light. Shasti yells that they don't want this, and a wave of force making a shattered protective wall is suddenly in front of them. Shasti suddenly becomes flesh and bone, something realer. The force of this wall breaks their bones and scars his flesh. The ship begins to move. Shasti is grabbed and the ship takes off. They look back to their home and it begins to fall. Osh questions if this happened because they wanted something new. As they exit the eternal possibility, they all need to make dex saving throws. R makes a 17, Kor makes a 14, Null with a 12, Idun with an 11, Osh with a 15, and Luce with a 24. Luce and Emissary are fine, but the rest are now suddenly hit by a strong force and are thrown to the deck of something that they are now traveling on. They see waves of heat and light and color as they go towards something that is going to destroy them. Emissary asks what to do, and Luce doesn't quite know. Emissary says that he is something. He then jumps up and puts a wall in front of them. Suddenly, a face, eyes, and hair appear on his body. He is then burnt by heat terribly. He pushes away through the heat for the others. As Emissary is dying, Luce puts their hand on him, and she says that she is sorry. She holds Emissary in this moment, and it feels like a hug. This hug saves him from destruction. She heals him, and a mane of hair pulls off of him. This mane turns into large horns. Luce burns brighter and brighter and becomes pure light. The ship pushes through, and they are in a place of pure chaos. And Shasti, who is using the force that they created to push them forward, suddenly are surrounded by darkness. Shasti says that it's here. Says no, they must remember where they came from. They will always have a home with each other. Suddenly that name is bothering me, begins to glow with unending light that dispels the darkness. At the end of R's light is color and chaos bouncing around, fighting. Idun sees that they are entering a place that will destroy them soon. He extends himself out as far as he can. He then sees geometry and structure. A helm is suddenly created on the ship they are on, and a compass is made. And this is making their journey a lot safer as they can now guide through it. The others see they have a safer path now, but they don't know to where. Kor begins to react to the geometry that was made, and he paints the stars guiding their path. Pure artistry comes from them, and they have a heading now. They are all burning, the ones of them that take form, and the other versions of them that burn away, that will never exist. As they push forward, Os says that he wanted something, and they need something, and he's going to find it. He reaches out and feels pure light, and finds home. Eden and Osh found home. Null looks at how they've all changed, and she's worried that this wasn't the right choice. But she can feel the day is coming. The day back home that would have never existed. They move forward, and they feel pain. Broken bodies, blood, eyes, hands. They are covered in dirt and ash. They look up and they are frightened. They see monstrous figures that have seen that they have arrived in their domain. We then jump to the town of Hawks Hill on the continent of Kushar. I'm not sure if that was the right pronunciation, but who knows. A century into the calamity, the sky is filled with ash and ruin. This village is a way station, a place where people have gathered for their last chance of salvation. Not from the gods. They haven't seen the gods in decades, even though they are the cause of the ash above. Hawks Hill is waiting for salvation from Aor, the last of the great sky cities, whose ships still fly 100 years into this war with the gods against their demons, devils, dragons, and fae, called to the side of the gods. Hawks Hill is nestled between two craggy ridges. The town is made of tents and shacks, and it was unclear how long it would stand, but it's been here for over a decade now. This town is built around a landing point or a landing pad with a sigil of Aor. Brennan said sigil. Is that how you say sigil? I need to know how other people feel about this. This is where the skyship lands. This town is filled with a bunch of people. This town is very much alive with activity, and it feels like salvation is coming very soon. Moving into the town are two of the players. First is a human woman in her 30s. Her name is Trist, and she is played by Ashley Johnson. You are seeing the image, so I don't have to describe what she looks like, because that would be a lot extra. She's a paladin cleric multiclass. She looks like she would blend into a crowd really easily, and she has kindness in her eyes. She is wearing a coat that belongs to her husband, Amiris. Next to her is a young man in his mid to late teens. His name is Aiden, who is a barbarian, cleric, druid, paladin multiclass. That's insane. He reaches down and pets Trist's dog, Gilly. Gilly is a big mountain rescue dog. Walking up to them is a centaur named Ridge. He tells them they can pull their wagon up into a stopping point. Behind the two of them, they hear kids yelling, "Mom!" Trist sees her daughter Haley and her son Topher. They tell her about a fruit-filled wagon, and Topher says that he saw some people playing cards gambling. He wants to learn how. Trist, at first, isn't on board with this idea, but he asks what if they ask him to play, and she tells him to learn the game and beat them in that case. Both of her kids have furry ears, and Trist's furbulk husband, Amiris, walks up behind them. Amiris turns to Aiden and claps his shoulder. Amiris says that he's been looking and he understands the plan. There are 2 wagons and 2 of them, but there are people selling emblems of refuge. If they don't want to go alone, they can buy some and go with them. Trist doesn't think that needs to happen. Aiden says to Topher that he needs to stay to learn his card game. Amiris says for a holy man, he encourages gambling quite a lot. Aiden says that it's written in the stars, it's a good time. Topher gets excited and runs off, and Haley follows, as does Gilly. Amiris asks Trist if she really doesn't want him to come. Trist does, but she needs him here. Trist tells Amiris that she loves him, and Amiris says that Trist is their miracle. A dwarf behind them tells them to break it up and stop smooching. This place is filled with a bunch of cutthroats. Amiris helps Trist get their wagons ready, and we cut to the other side of town, where we meet Laura's character. A human woman named Amira, 29 years old. She is a warlock. She's talking to an older man, but she is looking around the sky. She puts her arm up, and a raven lands on her arm. The man next to her looks at her. He has a mantle of raven feathers over his shoulder. He looks older and tired. He says there's plenty for the raven to eat around here. Amira sends the raven off. The older man sighs and says that he can get the lay of the land, but this is likely where they part ways. Amira asks if he wants to come. He can still go after all. The old man says he'd do anything she asked of him, but they all have to choose how to spend their life and how to spend their death. It's been his honor to protect her, but he doesn't think anything he could stop that she can't stop better. Amir says she'd have been lost without him and thanks him for his protection. He smiles sorrowfully. Insight check from Amira, and she gets an 18. The old man says ever since he met her and her parents, he told them that he saw a vision, and it was of him to protect her. And even as a child, he could tell that there was something she was looking for. He doesn't think she needed him, but he always wanted to help her find the thing she was looking for. He wants to make sure that she found it before they part, but he's unsure if she did. He asks if there was anything more that he could have done. He hopes that she finds whatever he is looking for, and Amira says that he gives her peace. The old man says he'll save the true goodbye for when the ship arrives. For now, he'll look around. The old man bends down to an enormous wolf. He tells the wolf to go looking. The wolf takes off, and the old man nods and vanishes into the shadows. We then move over to another area of the town, where there's more wagons. Wagons filled with a ton of fruit, and another filled with ice to keep the hunted game on top of it cool. We then meet Asha, Talzin's character, a elf, 38 years old, and a monk. I want to point out that one of you on the my predictions video for this nailed this, by the way. Someone's like, oh, Talzin wanted to play a monk when they did that sick day thing, and you nailed it. I completely forgot about that from my predictions video. Good job. Her clothes were once grand, but have been put back together a lot over the years. A large woman walks up to Asha. She has a massive canine tooth and would probably get much bigger in a different form. She says this place stinks of Aeorians. They aren't all coming with the ship. They have embedded themselves in the town. Another woman walks up, cloaked, burnt from head to toe. Her name is Sarone. I believe that was it. Sarani? Sarani, that was it. Sometimes when you write something down and then you go to read it again, it's not right, but it's Sarani. There is another person behind her, a thin man with frost-white skin and frost-white hair, a changeling. Sarani asked if Asha wants them to take out any of the watching eyes. Asha says in their heads that she thought she taught them patience. They take a bow and walk away. Asha then smells a familiar scent as a large wolf appears and looks at her. The wolf rolls onto its back in front of her. Asha pets the wolf and says, in its head, it's been too long. The wolf says, I honor and revere that which walks inside and around you, queen. The wolf belongs to a mortal in this world, but understands what is before him. There's a raven overhead. Asha smells the scent of death on this wolf. Asha says the wolf knows who they are, and she's grateful these times need hunters. Asha then walks towards the raven, and meanwhile we go back over to Trist and Aiden. Light appears in the clouds, and they begin to part. A massive Aeorian ship is about to land. It eventually lands, and the loading bay opens up, and there is a silhouette of figures. We then meet Abu Bakar's character. I'm going to keep saying his name so wrong, and I'm sorry about that. A Aeoriton named Silalha. I'm going to say that name wrong too, but I think I got it there. He is a sorcerer warlock multiclass. He walks down and takes in the space around him. He then says, they have come to collect the food and supplies for Aor. Let the representatives of Aor do their work. After that, the people can apply to seek refuge on the city. Laborers have priority, and if they aren't chosen, they will be given an emblem of sanctuary. Those with the most emblems will be taken after the laborers. Wounded and sick do not count. He then waves the Aorians down and start making their way through the wagons to gather material for a secret project. Trist and Aiden see the Aorian guards going toward them. Asha sees this as well, and she and her guard of companions surround a crate on one of their wagons. Back with Amira, her raven overhead, she sees the ship and looks it over and takes in all the details of it. She also looks at Trist and her children. With surprise, she didn't expect there to be much joy here. Amira sees the ship's name is the Venator, which means place of hunters. She sees Trist and Aiden have wagons filled with food. Trist and Aiden get ready for the Aorians to come and look it over. Aiden, having heard the rules, looks around for any sick people or injured people. He hears a man in a tent nearby, a man coughing quite badly. Amira hears this as well. There's an elderly couple looking down at an even older man. This is the closest sick person that Aiden found. Amira walks to the tent as well. He asks what is wrong with him, and the elder man says his father is gripped with a cough. Amira and Aiden see a ton of emblems, meaning that this family has been passed over time and time again by Aor. The couple don't know what he has. Aiden sees Amira and smiles. He then casts Lesser Restoration on the really old man. Amira sees the divine power leave Aiden, and the old man stops coughing. The old man goes to grab some of the emblems, but as he does, his hand goes limp. The woman asks what he did, and Amira steps up and says that he offered her father peace in his final moments. They watch a moment of loss and pain. They have a ton of emblems now, and they can get out of here. Trist sees this as well. Asha sees that the group is gathering at this point. Asha looks to Amira and says that she smells of death, and Amira thanks her and says that she smells like fur. Asha eats an apple, and they say it's good to see them all. She's missed this. The Aorian guards look over the wagons. The Aorian guards ask who owns the wagons, and they point to Triss and Aiden. The guards also see Asha's crate. Silaha walks up to the guards and asks if they need help, and he says no. They leave, and Salaha looks at the others and says, what took them long enough, and hands out a bunch of amulets to the group. He looks at the crate in Asha's wagon and asks who it belongs to. Asha says it's her crate. Salaha is surprised by this. The wagon begins to be waved along onto the ship. Aiden sees Topher and Haley come back. Aiden also hears worry throughout the camp. He overhears someone say that the scouting party hasn't come back quite yet from Highgarden. If Highgarden has been taken, that means they are coming here next. He gets a sense of worry over the town. They all start to feel this worry at the same time, as the time is nearing for when people will learn their fate. Salaha moves back to the ship and takes point. The group gather, and Amiris asks if Trist has her sending stone. Trist does. Amiris says if anything happens, he will find his way to her. Bear High, the dwarf from before, says that they have to get going soon. Ridge the Centaur says that he can feel the tension in the air and sees that there's a lot of hungry people. Aiden wants to feed some of them. Amir says that they have a lot of food. Trist says if they can do it quietly, they can. Aiden asks Salaha if their wagon must meet a quota. Salaha says yes. Aiden thinks he must help them find food in a different way. Aiden walks up to a group or a family of hungry people and hands them his tent. He sets it up and then he hopes that this is enough. He says if they don't get onto the ship, they shouldn't enter the tent until the ship is fully gone. He then casts create food and water within it. The skinny father of the family says that this is too much, who has a spare tent. Aiden says a tent is far easier to spare than food. The father can smell the food within, and he thanks Aiden. Salaha tells him in his head to stop playing the hero. They have a plan. Topher and Haley hug Trist. Haley says that they let Topher play with acorns, but he lost them all. This makes everyone laugh. A very obvious criminal walks up to Topher and gives him a gold piece and says that he felt bad about how poorly he played, and that he reminds him of a younger brother he had, who played just as bad as Topher. Trist hugs her family and tells them that she loves them and she'll be back soon. Amir says, see you in 2 days, and Trist says it back to him. The wagons move on to the ship, and Trist can still smell the scent of her family as she leaves. Asha's wagon moves up. Asha's companions say that they'll watch this place and wait for her, but Asha tells them to go home. They should meet some people, take them home, and test them the way that she would. Amira sees a wolf walk up to her, and her champion walks up to her as well. He says this will be the last ship to come here, he thinks. Amira says that there will be chaos. She asks Pervan to make sure that Trist's family get out of here safely. Pervan nods. Salaha watches as the Aorians try to lift Asha's crate, but he struggles, and Salaha helps out and finds that the crate is actually insanely heavy. The party is loaded up, and the Aorian captain Marcus calls for the laborers to make their way to the ship first. The guards ask Salaha if they should start sorting things, and Salaha says no, they should be on guard. Marcus calls for those with emblems to make their way towards the ship now, and there's about 400 people trying to get a seat that are only belonging to a handful of people. Captain Marcus kicks a gnomish woman who is holding an emblem of the Dawn Father. Marcus yells that no god worship will come to the ship or Aor. The only way they will survive is the power of Aor. He asks if she will be rid of the emblem. She says that she has taken every step with the Dawn Father and she won't take one without him. Marcus points to the sky filled with ash. The gnomish woman says even though you can't see the sun, it is still up there. Marcus orders the guards to strip her of her emblems and her family's emblems. The gnomes are then pushed back into the crowd. Aiden just stares at the gnomish woman. She meets his eyes and she begins to cry. The gnome woman grabs her family and says that the sun is still shining. Salaha grabs Aiden and tells him to get to work. The party watches the ship is filled with people and the doors close behind them. Trist looks outside the ship to see her family until they are out of view. We then go into a deep hidden antechamber in the Venatora. The large door is open. Salaha moves a large crate inside. Asha is with him. The rest of the party are with them as well. The doors close behind them. The crate is incredibly heavy. They remove the front portion of it very easily. Within is the last member of the group. Salaha knows that has to be done now before they cross the threshold. Inside the crate is a massive slab of stone encased by ice. The sound of a gong rings out and a scream is let out. The contents of the box begin to pool out. A light comes up from the stone. A figure stands, made of stone and ice, with a face, no mouth, holes where its eyes should be. At the feet of Asha is a massive figure, an Earth Genasi barbarian named the Emissary, played by Nasir. It looks up to Asha and says, she has left me here. The Emissary looks around. He stands up. He's about 8 feet tall. Asha asks if she said anything before she left. The Emissary says that his lady is always with you. He opens his hands, and within is a small seed. Asha goes to the corner and curls up, and is suddenly a very large timber wolf. Amira says that this isn't what was expected. Salaha hands the Emissary an amulet like the others. Salaha says to Asha that they need to head back. Asha gets up and is no longer a timber wolf and says that there will be words later. Salaha heads toward the door. This wasn't part of the plan, and the sixth member sent a proxy in the form of the Emissary. All of the party have an amulet now that is a small gyroscoping gold bands around a green gem. Salaha stops at the door and turns back to the Emissary and tells him to get back in the box. It's better if he stays hidden. Salaha puts the lid back on and says he's supposed to be apples right now. The party all hear over the intercom that the Venator is now approaching the Latunus Precepts. Sorry if I said that wrong too. They feel a plane intersect with the ship. The plane collapses space and time. The party are made thinner and they all feel sick. The Precepts was made to stop the gods from going to Aor, but mortals must be able to get through it. The party feels something repel them, but then it passes. They are relieved that the plan worked. The party look out the windows and see stars above the clouds. Not many get to see the stars anymore without having great power. Off in the distance, they see a bunch of colors and ships pull up towards the Venatora. They see mages with steel masks on guard. They begin to inspect the Venatora with magic. The mages stop at a man and look him over and yell illusion and throw him overboard. Salaha knows the ships are using brimstone to fly, and he also knows that there are glass batteries with a demon inside being made into electrical magical energy. Sons of bitches have 1 billion of these engines, apparently. The party wonder what will set off the detection from these mages, and Asha isn't totally sure, but isn't going to risk it. She tells Amira she needs an owner and transforms into a wolf and stands next to Amira, leaving Asha's wild shape to do so, which means she's always a wolf and transforms into a human for wild shape. Interesting, which is odd for a monk, but these are godly entities. There's a knock at the chamber door. It's Captain Marcus and 2 mages with steel masks on. These masks are integrated into their skulls. Marcus says that the inspectors wish to look over the party. The inspectors move up and start to cast detect magic and see invisibility. Salaha casts dispel magic, but does so in a way that the inspectors will be unaware that the spell didn't work. Deception check of 21. An insight from the inspectors is rolled out publicly for everyone to see, and they roll a 4 for a 7 total. The inspectors look over the party and see nothing. As the inspectors look over the crate, the spell suddenly stops for them. They ask what's inside. Salaha says apples. The inspectors try to lift it but can't, and the other inspector then casts Zone of Truth. He asks who the crate belongs to, and Salaha says Amira. They all need to roll a charisma save. Everyone except the Emissary, who doesn't need to make a save, and Amira were above a 19. Amira, however, rolled a 1. Amira feels that they are still within the Latinus Precepts. She feels like she can that she has been walking on solid ground her entire life and is now suddenly walking in the marsh. It is a weird feeling, as if she's been disconnected from something that's always been one step away from her. They all become aware that they are really who they are now. They don't have a choice to be anything but who they are right now. Amira can't lie now either. The inspector asks what is in her crate. She says that their equipment is broken and they should get it fixed, and she casts suggestion on them. She rolls a deception check to try to hide it as well, and she rolls a 17. He says, no one move, they'll be right back, and the other inspector goes to join as well. Amir asks if Salaha is above them. Unfortunately, he says no. Asha asks if they would be missed. She is hungry after all. Salaha says not here. Salaha says to leave it to him, and he walks out of the room. He goes into the ship and casts a minor illusion elsewhere to cause a distraction. He creates one of the gnomes that was kicked off earlier, and this makes the guards chase it. It becomes a wild goose chase. A more powerful looking mage grabs other mages with the steel masks and asks how they lost the gnome. The one guard says that their equipment is malfunctioning, and he gets a very hard slap for it. The party watches the mages go out and scout the skies, and the party can also see Aor approaching off in the distance. Wards of the city on arms of massive stone slabs that circle a central point. A very large light, magical and arcane, so powerful that it rivals the sun. Massive automatons standing 20 plus feet tall, walking on massive ramparts. This is Aor, the last of the Sky Cities, the last and greatest hope for mortal existence in Exandria. The Venator then docks on the city of Aor. They are in the Aris Ward. It is a district of artistry and craftsmanship. They see lights from the automatons, and they also see Aoritons walking about the city, speaking to others. This place has created life, maybe even with a soul. They see on a massive stone pier there are some mages and wizards of the city, many of them wearing clothing indicating their high station. They walk with demons bound to their service and that wear silver collars and wrist cuffs with bells on them, to show anyone can be bent to the will of Aor. They see the genesis of the Latinus precepts in the core of the city. They all feel a charged magic feeling in the air. There are many sky bridges that connect the massive towers of the city, and there are green lights coming from arcane trams moving across the city at incredible speeds. The streets are busy, but they are exclusively busy with a military presence. Young Aorians have been cuffed and thrown into the back of an arcane wagon. The city is filled with fear, power, and people of high station. Salaha says that it's beautiful, isn't it? And the party have mixed feelings on that. The ship is unloaded. Farmers are being taken off in a different direction. Salaha knows they are safe from inspection at this point. They have passed enough gates to be safe. Captain Marcus walks up and asks Salaha if he will be dealing with the crate, and Salaha says yes. Marcus says he hopes that Salaha will pass on a good word to Primarch Selena, as he treated him, Aoriton, with the utmost respect. Salaha asks if the two of them made a deal, and Marcus says no. Salaha says that he won't do him a favor, respect is won, and he has his respect, not Selena's. But he then laughs and says that he will pass on a good word for him. Marcus says for the glory of Aor, and Salaha says it back. As the crate holding the emissary is leaving the ship, it is suddenly wrapped up in a magical field that allows it to levitate. The party see a tram station that they can go to that will take them anywhere. There is military there, but they don't really seem to worry about it. Marcus waves the party through before he starts moving the farmers around. Salaha starts taking the party to what is known as the Chamber of Seasons. They move to the tram station, and they get on their seats, crafted by magic alone. A voice coming from the train says that the Opus Ward is the final destination. The tram then takes off at insane speeds. They see the skyline of the city. There are gray, tall buildings and seemingly very few windows. Aorian guard is on the tram, and he is rubbing his head. An imp suddenly appears and tells him that he has missed his stop. The guard then snaps his fingers, and the imp painfully snaps into the necklace that he has around his neck. He doesn't seem to care he missed his stop. The guard then falls asleep. Amira, kind of pissed off, takes the necklace from the guard. She then turns invisible and looks over the guard. He wakes up a bit, and she looks at him. She rolls a perception check and sees that he doesn't know that he'll be dead by sunrise. She breathes in, and the guard wakes up and runs around looking for his necklace. He then runs to another car. The party eventually get to the Opus ward, a ward at the base of Aor, a ward that hardly gets any sunlight as it is below other wards. This ward is also very old. Was Aor always in the sky, they wonder? Maybe at the start of the war, these buildings were somewhere on the ground. There's a thick military presence here as well, but at a distance, with spotlights primarily. There doesn't seem to be any higher business going on in this ward. They exit the tram and move through the shadows, to a very large stone building that has fallen apart. At the back is a large stone gate. As Salaha opens the door, he hears a voice call for them. He says he brought friends like they asked, and the voice asks how many he brought. He says 6, and one of them is very different. They enter and see an Aorian archmage. They are in an antechamber of a temple. This place has somehow been forgotten by Aor. It has smashed walls with images of miracles forgotten by the people, but the walls remember. The archmage looks over at the party, and the archmage is a beautiful woman with red and white robes, long braids, and deep black skin. She smiles and her eyes are white. She is Arcadia Saren Varix. Amira says it's nice to see you, sister. And she says that she didn't know this would work. And Arcadia says, not sister. The emissary wants to see, so they let him out of the box. Arcadia asks why she didn't come, and Salaha says that she didn't have it in her like he thought. Arcadia says Salaha also broke the rules. She was the only one who was meant to go to Aor. Amira says she made a deal and abandoned them in the moment of need. Arcadia asks what she told the emissary to do, and he says to share her love with Aor and guide them true. He will save them. Arcadia says you are here to follow her will and do they wish for any help. The emissary says they will take any aid. Arcadia pulls out a bunch of clasps with no enchantments on them. However, when she hands them over to the emissary, he is turned into an Aorian mage. He asks why, and Arcadia says that movement will be challenging. The Ministry of Intention is incredibly paranoid right now. The leadership of the Somnovum, although separated, believe great danger is coming. I love Campaign 2 references. Arcadia says it will be helpful, and this is a small deception. The emissary simply says lies. Asha says that that's all they know, and the emissary asks Trist if some little lies are okay. Trist says yes, and the emissary says for now. Aiden asks Arcadia how long she's been here. She says that she's been here for 30 years after their last meeting. She came here as soon as she was old enough to understand things. They all know how difficult the early years were, and Aiden asks what she learned. She and Salaha have learned a lot. He came here in a shapeable form and was created here a good way to pass their defenses. Arcadia says they should speak, but they aren't all here. There's only 4, the others betrayed it, but these 4 made it here. They're waiting inside the Chamber of Seasons. This place is a magically safe place and has been forgotten by Aor. This place was a place of worship at the beginning of Aor, before the gods were hated and hatred was law. The 4 are still waiting within. Arcadia says that she knows this was a taxing journey for all of them, but having been here for 30 years, there is no other way. Their power extends even beyond her imagination. Aiden says they don't know anything. Arcadia says those within the chamber have harmed them in the past. She asks for them to know that they are themselves and they are us. No one has to reveal who they actually are. They will give their names and their lives that they have in Exandria, and that should be enough. Arcadia opens the door and walks in the shadows. Amira says that she loves family drama, and she walks into the doorway. Asha looks at the images on the walls and looks for any of them that feel off. There are 2 that catch her interest. She sees an image of a chain as if something is being hung by them, and there is another that is completely blank, no art on it at all. Asha says there's a hole in all of them. She can't blame her, but sometimes it's hard not to feel robbed. Trish says there's a lot of anger towards them here. Asha says not for long. The rest then begin to walk in to the doorway. Before they all go, Amira has her raven, Dearest, land inside and begins to peck away at the blank wall. The emissary is the last one in the room and looks at the raven and says, to the new. The raven looks up and says, glad you're here. The emissary stands there holding onto chains. He holds golden chains of the scales of justice. He then joins the others. As they enter the room lights up. It was previously dark. 4 figures are standing behind an altar. An old man, where a priest would stand. And they seem to be a priest of the Dawn Father. On the altar itself is a powerful barbarian woman. On a raised platform is a deathly looking turtle. He looks like he's been ripped apart as he has spikes and chains going throughout his body. At the top of a column is a small halfling with a bow and arrow. She then drops down. The barbarian stands and says that she liked the dark better, but it's not her temple. She didn't have a face to smash. Aiden looks at the priest and says he would have words with you if he were here. The priest says that he's an open channel to the Lord of the Sun. Let him speak to me. He then says hello to the family. Arcadia steps up and says they've all come to the city of Aor. The priest of the Dawn Father is looking at the party. Arcadia says that their time together should be kept short. A truce has been called and much has been learned already. The last they spoke was at the start of when Aor blocked the gods from being able to see what they were doing. Magic staggering even their imagination. They could assume only the worst as to why they did this. What else are they hiding if they can hide themselves after all? The halfling says, who knows, maybe they can kill a god, imagine that. Arcadia says, our worst fears have been confirmed. She's done her best to stay hidden and still work within the ministry. A weapon is all but complete. The Factorum Malleus. The Latinus precepts was meant to block them from getting to the city and buy them time. Time that the Aorians have used to build a weapon. The possibility of the weapon was enough to call a truce. They made a plan to bypass the wards into Aor, and they have passed some of them, but there are still more to get by. But possibilities are now certainty. The priest asks how soon, and Arcadia says it might already be done. This weapon can't take their place, but it can kill something infinite. Salaha says that's impossible, but Amira says that it certainly is. The priest speaks up and says they should introduce themselves. He is Milo Kust, a priest of the Dawn Father. The barbarian is Tashar. The halfling is Umleta, and the turtle is Zarhust. Milo says that they should share what they know, and Arcadia says the plan must be made. They should fan out and look throughout the city and spend a week to learn what they can. But there is a protocol in place where if they feel threatened, Aor can send the method of creating the weapon all over every corner of Exandria. Milo asks why they need to spend a week. He thinks they only have one night, as one of the party's servants are telling them the plan as they speak. The party is confused. Decades are a long time to be away from the throne. Arcadia is confused. Milo asks if they know what he knows. He says earlier that day a celestial came to Aor and was welcomed by the magistrate. Milo asks if it was their plan to have one of their own servants announce their arrival. Amira asks what they looked like, and Milo says white-winged, beautiful face, long hair. Arcadia turns and asks why one of their own servants would do this. Thrashar asks if they don't think they are impossible to disagree with. Maybe one of their servants don't think they should be in charge. Milo says they should act with urgency. The angel or the celestial is in the Genesis ward. Arcadia says they need to work together to destroy the weapon and destroy the copies. Thrashar, Thrashar, the barbarian, says there's an obvious way to deal with this. Umletta agrees. Triss says no. Umletta says that they should make them see reason. If they did, they wouldn't be here right now. Aiden says sometimes kid thinks they know better. Umletta says they all seem like adults to her. Zarhus says everyone here is in misery, they should devour them. Arcadia turns to the rest and says she can't tell if they're being manipulated right now. The emissary insight checks Milo and rolls a 17. He seems to be telling the truth and has upheld their end of the bargain so far, or the truce. Arcadia says they need to make a call right now. Triss wants to hear the plan first. Arcadia says it's the Aerovox protocol that sends the information out, and the engines that power the Op-10 which is what blocks the sight of the gods in the Genesis ward. If the Op-10 is still up, it blocks the sight and will block the gods' true selves from being able to help them. And the Lattice Precepts itself has to be dealt with last, as it is part of the Factorum Malleus. She looks to see Salaha and asks if he can learn anything about the Celestial. Asha asks if they have gone mad and if they're going to find 3 machines and stop the information from getting out when they can't control their own people. Asha says they knew what this was from the beginning. She can't believe the others are here. If they weren't, they would win, because they themselves would be killed. Aiden says if they can do it without destroying the city, that's how they themselves win. The non-believers hate them because they fear that they will be destroyed. But they can show that they are more and that they can protect each other and show that there is a better way. The emissary says redemption or death. Amira says they don't fear them, they resent them. And if they let them live, they won't just start worshipping them again. If they let them go, they'll do it again. And they'll let the knowledge loose. Trist asks if the knowledge is already out, and if it is, why bother destroying the city? Amira says that they are greedy here, and they haven't sent it out quite yet, and they won't do so until they absolutely have to. But death is inevitable, and they will guide them to a shorter thread if they need to. The 4 are smiling and laughing. Arcadia says it feels foolish to not share the knowledge, as they have more information. But to Aiden's point, a night is still time to make anything happen. But should they include the 4, they won't ever feel like they aren't being manipulated. But Acadia wants the knowledge that she doesn't have. The party think they should bring the 4 in, and the 4 step forward. Milo says, let's spill, and Arcadia says the problem is the Airvox protocol. That once that's done, they can deal with the Op-10, and then their brethren will be able to step in, those who are on the outside. Once the Op-10 is down, it'll get a little bit windy. He doesn't need to be here to bring the storm. Then they can deal with the Factorum Malleus. The only problem is what they know about the party. Is it just that the gods are coming, or is it their names and faces? They don't have time to do this one by one, and the group is too large to move stealthily. Thrashar says that the 4 can be one group, but Trist says no. Milo says they will split if they aren't trusted by them. But the question is, do they dawdle or do they drop the city out of the sky? ASAP. Salaha says there's beauty in destruction and creation comes from it. Asha says they're going to end it for everyone if they have gone too far and wouldn't let this world die. Arcadia says there's no need to make a decision right now, and the threat does dwell on her mind. Knowing how they do this is important. If they destroy the city, they gain nothing of knowledge from this Malleus, from the Factorum Malleus. They have time now, but that time may run out. They will know quickly when they do run out of time, however. Arcadia says they should move soon, and Thrashar shrugs. Zarhust walks up a bit and coughs out blood. Umletta laughs at him because of the form he took. Asha transforms into her wolf form and goes up to Zarhust and says that she misses them in there. Zarhust says why don't you find me? I don't want to do this alone. Asha says that she is sorry. Zarhust asks if he takes care of her, can he torture her forever? Asha says that he already does. Zarhust then walks off. Trist walks up and asks what happened to Zarhust. He says that he does this because it is the truth. Trist asks if she can give him a moment of peace and puts her hand out onto him and rolls persuasion. She gets an 18. Zarhust recoils. He doesn't want to rest. The world was a promise that this wouldn't happen, but what does it mean to feel rest? The last time they saw peace was long before they touched this world. On a ship of light, he looked behind and saw that thing eat their world. That was peace. Milo says he wants a moment to talk if they're all going to be mixing company. Arcadia says that she wants to say something without the other four hearing as well. She casts silence on the group and an illusion to hide it. Arcadia says they have the power within Salaha due to their construction, but the Emissary also has a power within them. It is possible for them to die here and as they are separate. If they die, the eternal part will exist once again, but they won't be able to help in Aor. Please remain whole, and make sure the Emissary remains. If what she has seen is true, he must remain. Aiden says that he'll go with Milo, and Trish should go with the others. Trish says not to let him inside his head. Aiden says that he loves them all, and tells them all good luck. Trish inside checks on Arcadia to see if she's holding back anything. She rolls a 32. She looks at Arcadia and the goddess of knowledge. She holds a ton back and clearly knows something about the Emissary. Trish asks if Arcadia is on their side, and Arcadia is confused. She thought things were clear about what has to become of things. Trish just says that she's having trust issues right now. Arcadia says she did call the truce. They do have a right to be suspicious and hurt. Amira asks if she knew of the Celestial, and Arcadia says she's been here the longest, and she looks to the youngest for answers. Aiden. Asha casts Detect Thoughts on Arcadia. Arcadia and Zalaha ask why they did that. Oh, by the way, it fails, the Detect Thoughts. Asha says there's no sides right now. There's what needs to be done, and everyone is off right now. Arcadia says that she put a lot of work into her mind. Please don't touch it. Milo says they will defeat themselves at this rate. Arcadia says the Obtenebrator is in the Genesis Ward, and the Aerovox protocol is throughout the city. And learning through Salaha info is important to understand what the enemy knows. And lastly, they need to find their way into the Genesis Ward. Aiden says that him and Milo can find a way in. Arcadia says they are all equals, but they need to deal with everything that is listed. Asha wants to break things, and Thrashar agrees. They need to learn when or where the protocol will be sent from. Salaha says that he can find that out as well. He'll learn what the enemy knows. Umleta wants to go with Salaha. He's against the idea at first, but wants Amira to go with him, and she agrees. Zarhust says he's going to join the Breaking the Protocol mission, and the Emissary wants to join that one as well. Trist will then go with Aiden and Milo. The teams are Trist, Aiden, and Milo looking for a way into the Genesis Ward. Asha, the Emissary, Zarhust, and Thrashar are going to be going after the protocol, and Zalaha, Amira, and Umleta will be trying to get information. Aiden casts telepathic bond to everyone in the room, and at that moment, art in the antechamber is restored, including, where once was blank, a woman with a white mask surrounded by ravens like it ever was. Aiden looks at the Emissary and casts Death Ward on him to keep him around. Umleta looks up and says, family, and maybe they'll be family again after this, when they see that there's not much to like about the people, when they are here on the ground floor with them. Arcadia smiles and says, to the heart of Aor, to disarm them from a weapon, to destroy the gods. This will be their last night as mortals. And this is where the session ends. So there you have it, episode 99 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, or Downfall Part 1. Now, this one was so packed filled with information, and I'm very excited for like the future of all of this. I very much enjoyed learning all of these characters. The best part was like learning or seeing like how the gods are created and how, because that was what the beginning was. The beginning was the gods going from their home and finding Exandria, which is really cool and really interesting. I liked seeing that. I didn't expect that. Another thing I didn't expect was them playing the gods. I thought we were going to be seeing champions of the gods going in to destroy air, but instead the gods in a mortal form. It's the way that it's described. It almost seems like these are avatars, but then in some instances and conversations, it doesn't seem that way. It seems like these are actually them. And there was a thing said at the beginning of the episode where they said, like, the gods haven't been seen in decades, and then if you look at all of their ages, that is roughly true. They are all in. I don't think anyone breaks 40. So for most of them, that sounds like they've been there. Like, they've been in these mortal forms for almost half the calamity so far, which is kind of interesting. But overall, I very much enjoy this. There's a bunch of theories cooking in my brain. I did find one issue, however, and it's on me. It's an issue with me. It's two things that sort of combine together. Brennan is a very, very fast talker, and while I can get behind that, he's very fast at talking. The other thing that sort of compounds with it, that sort of creates issues for me, is he's smarter than me, so he says big words that I don't understand, so I have to go back and listen to him a couple times to figure it out. Thank God for Beacon, because I can rewind it and watch it at my own pace, and I can just, do that instead of having to sort of watch it on a live stream where I can't rewind it, can't pause it, or anything like that. So if you're curious if Beacon is worth doing, Beacon is 100% worth buying. But yeah, that is my only issue I have right now with all of this. Is there's a lot of information, a lot of big words, and Brennan talks super fast. But that's it. That's the only issue I have. I like these characters so far. I'm very interested. I am shocked they're playing as like these proxy gods, which is interesting. But yeah, this is one of those things. Like the beginning of this session is when if they eventually animate the Bell's Hells, this will be like the thing I'm looking forward to the most. Seeing the gods being created in the show is going to be sick, and I'm very excited. That's not for like years down the line, but that is a very exciting thought. But anyway, I very much enjoyed this episode. I'm curious to know what you guys all think. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Peace.